my notes says, I love Genya. Yeah, like, these are just my notes, so I'm sure they'll come up.
I am ready.
You and your English language. Hey, and welcome to the third official mini episode, where basically anything goes. Unscripted, unfiltered, and ranty. And this is actually pretty unscripted, unfiltered, and ranty because this is our Shadow and Bone spoiler episode. We have arrived. I'm so excited.
We've all been dying.
You can stop
to say
saying,
the spoiler.
I can't talk about that.
Yes, if you listen to the previous two episodes, you know that we had to really control ourselves and stop multiple times, but now we don't have to. So this is your warning. If you have not seen the show, if you have not read the books, get out now because we're about to spoil everything, and we have a lot of unpopular opinions, and we're here for those
and
too.
Popular opinions
those
too,
two.
probably.
Maybe, I don't know.
So let's say, which books are we going to spoil? And
Yes, we're gonna do
Talk
Shadow
about
and
that.
Bone the trilogy and Six of Crows duology, but nothing beyond that. So
So we haven't all read all of the other duology.
yes.
I've only
So
read
if you
one.
haven't read King of Scars or Rule of Wolves, you're still safe. We
Still
will
safe.
not spoil those.
Yes,
but
there you go.
Guys,
the
we
others.
didn't
We don't have anything to
introduce
spoil
ourselves.
because we haven't read them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't know. We can speculate, and if we're right, well, then we're awesome, but we wouldn't actually know for sure. But I was the last one to finish the show, which I did just like 3 hours ago because life. And I am even more in love with it now than I was, which I don't know. I'm not exactly surprised because obviously I was already freaking out about every little thing. But the fact that it started off strong and finished strong is so rare that I just got like extra excited. And my mom like came in whilst I was watching it, and she's like, "You doing okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. This is a happy face. Don't worry." She's like, "Okay."
No, I'm staring with a very solemn expression.
Yeah.
It's a happy
Or was she
face.
crying?
I wasn't crying, okay, but I did have
Not
like
this
not this
time.
time. The other episodes, yes, but I did have like my hands against my face, and I was like holding it so that I was like, because I was getting emotional,
Oh, that's so funny.
and yeah, there was a lot, and I loved it, and I loved the slight changes in the last episode that fit the story very well.
Yes.
And fit how
So.
they combined the two series.
Yes, exactly. I love
Yes.
that. So, I made notes while I was watching it, so I'm just gonna read off my, what is it, like emotions as I was watching the show.
And we will comment
And-
on them.
And you
she'll
can just
get
comment.
derailed by our comments.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. One
we
of the
go.
first things that I noticed, like, while I was watching the show, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think I mentioned it in the last episode. I think I mentioned it after we were finished recording. But the fact that we know General's name, that just like was just we spent 3 books
Oh,
trying to find
yes.
it, and then they're just like, "Call me Alexander," and I'm like, "Get out!"
I know. I feel like everyone in the whole fandom is like, call me Alexander? What? I so many times while we were watching it, I kept saying to my husband, I can't, it's so weird to me that they're calling him by a name. He's
Right?
the Dark Queen. What is this? Why does he just have a name?
It's that whole, you had to make him, approachable and
Yeah.
what is like the relatable, they had
It
to give him a
works,
name.
though.
It did work.
It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
I think it only bothers the people who have read
Correct.
the book. And,
Yes.
and I don't think it really bothers us anyway. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Well, no.
what?
Although, I mean,
Right.
I did talk to briefly one girl on Instagram who was just like, I watched half an episode but it was just like they changed too many things. And I was like, I don't even care. I don't care at all.
Half
I
an episode.
I know.
I thought they were
I'm like,
so
watch
close
the rest
to
of the
it.
episode.
Right,
And
exactly. I
So
thought
the
they were
things
close
that
too.
they did change, I thought were
I'm
fine.
fine with
Yeah.
changes as long as the characters remain true to themselves and the story is
Right.
good
Or better.
or
Yeah.
better.
Or better.
Or better,
We'll
yeah.
get there. Yeah, that's true. So I guess like we can talk about the character that is probably the most changed in the show from
Yes.
like the people's perspective of
Let's
it.
spoil.
Let's spoil
Yes.
some things.
So this is what I wrote in my notes, right? And I'm just gonna read it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Mal legit was ready to sacrifice himself and his happiness so Alina could do what needed to be done. And he does this repeatedly throughout the show, which I loved. And like, how can you not see Mal sacrifice? You know what I mean? Like, it was just so. I think the huge part of why Mal was so disliked in the book is because he was told from Alina's point of view. Like, I think that was why, because
I'm gonna disagree with you.
Okay,
Yeah, me too.
but hold on. This is the thing. She had a lot of interpretations of his responses that could have been taken completely different if you see it from his point of view. And I think because the show wasn't first person narrative, it helped us see him as a different character because we weren't just looking through her eyes. And that, I think, made him more likable to a lot of people, obviously. Okay, now you that was my note.
That they changed his character significantly in a good way, and that's why I liked him more.
I didn't go with
changed,
that.
Yes.
I just felt like in the books. Okay, I actually quite liked Mal. I was rooting for him.
Yes.
I liked him. I thought he was great. I feel like everything you said was true. I think that in the books he, I just always felt like he couldn't handle her power. He was like partly as he was
intimidated
partly was
by
that
it.
kind of like fear of the Grisha, which does come across a tiny bit in the show. Like you could tell they were both kind of like team, First Army kind of thing, and that he didn't like that she was changing. But I feel like that just dragged out in the book. Like he was really unhappy. He wanted her to give it up, pretty much, is what I remember, and that it almost felt like the kind of guy that is threatened by a strong woman, and I can't deal with that. That's like why I was never Team Mal in the end. I was like, yeah, he's a better choice than the Darkling because he's not like a sociopath who killed tons of people. So I mean, like, I'm down with that, but he just, even if he came back from it a bit, it never came to me to the point where he was, I don't know. I love the guys that when the girl shows her power, the guy is like, yes, you're amazing. Not like, oh, could you do less of that?
Right. Also, I thought another huge point was when Alina tells him how she kissed the Darkling, who I can't refer to him by his name. Okay, it's just the Darkling. But anyway, when she like admits that something happened between them, he's just kind of like, oh, I don't remember what he said.
Yeah, he's like, you don't have to explain yourself to me or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, Book Mal would not have said that. Book Mal would have. He would have fly off the handle, be like, how could you? Blah blah blah. He's so evil,
Yeah, I do agree with that, but in my mind, this is funny to me because if I think about like the book Mal, right? When you were talking about how he was like afraid of her power and stuff like that, like we're still seeing it through her eyes, right? So that was her insecurities as well, being portrayed. And so for her, maybe even if he was like trying to be supportive, she could have seen it like it wasn't supportive. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. It's like there's instances in the book where we got her when she like looks at him and he does something that could really be taken as just her reacting because she's unsure and she, is like thinks that this is the way he is going to react and that's why she hasn't told him anything or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's that like weird when it's first person, it's so hard to like not go back to the fact that it's one person's point of view. And the other thing is Alina drove me insane in the books. Like she drove me insane, and in the show she was just smarter.
Yeah.
And so and I think it's because we weren't in her head so much. And so
that's like exactly how I felt about it, is like they both drove me crazy in the books where like I liked them both as a couple because I thought they were both equally kind of immature and needed to grow as people in relationships. Yes. And I kind of interpreted things the same way where like Mal would do something and Alina would react and interpret it. I'd be like, you are so dumb. Like, that's not necessarily it. And then Mal would do something clearly dumb and I'd be like, you are so dumb. Yes. And then, but like, I could still see that she, despite their immaturity, because these are 16-year-old kids or however old they are thrown into a save the world situation, obviously like, they're going to be stupid. And I know that's like a part where like a lot, that might not always be fun to read about, but like, and I know we're like, not all books need to be realistic about like teens acting like teens, but I did feel like they were very much teens in that sense.
Yes.
And that they both reacted in really dumb ways, ways that actual controlling, whiny, jealous teens would. Because I tell you what, I'm probably still as jealous as a teenager, so maybe I related to some of that stuff. But yeah, like some of the things I would get so mad at Alina, like, okay, let's get into a little bit more of a spoiler. The whole thing about how maybe I interpreted it wrong, but I thought it was so dumb that like when it got to the point where like she had to marry Nikolai or she had to marry someone in power because she needed like a royal title and like an army in order to like be, I don't know, the reasoning felt really loose.
Yeah.
Where it didn't seem like you're freaking have a huge power, so you need to marry someone, have a marital contract. You can't just be like, hey, this is the alliance I'm giving you. Like, it just seemed really
I
loose.
felt like
and
Nikolai was more the one who was pushing for that, and she was just kind of like, oh, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah,
It just
because
makes
then
me
that
crazy.
was like, that was the thing that kept her and Mal apart at the end toward that part, is because like, oh no, I'm sorry, we can't be together now. Here's another reason we can't be together. Like, sometimes it's you, and sometimes it's me, and sometimes because I have to marry a prince or whatever. And it's like, is it really like that big of it? Like, can't you just be like, I'm super powerful, this is my boyfriend, take it or leave it, I'm gonna save the world. But so again, it was one of those things where it's like they both drove me crazy, and then that's why I was kind of like, you guys are both dumb and growing together, and it's like that friends to lovers thing. You guys are both super stupid, as we, a lot of young relationships are. Grow together. I'm here for it. I'll be at your wedding. Cheers.
That is awesome.
Flowers.
I thought she did. I feel like part of the reason Mal maybe was so the way he was, especially in the first book, I think she wanted to show growth. Lee Bardugo wanted to show growth in his character.
Yes.
And that is awesome. I love it when characters have growth, so I'm all about that. And I don't think Mal is, my favorite love interest by any means. But I was glad that they ended up together. I could see that it was like, that's the right choice. And by the time they got to the end, it was like, now they're ready for each other.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
That's how I
That was
felt
good.
too.
I didn't get there. I really didn't.
Hannah's over here like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, she's like,
I get it. I was like, I always want to be on the record. I am not Team Darkling. I am Team Alina doesn't need a man.
Alone.
Like, she doesn't need a man. She's fine. I want to remind everyone that I love romance more than anything in a book. And I was still like, maybe you'll be okay by yourself. It'll be okay. Mal did grow, but he did not grow enough to turn into a character that I felt swoony over. Therefore, I was just like,
yeah.
So, okay, here's another big book 3 spoiler. So if you haven't read book 3,
We already spoiled it for you,
But
but
Y'all just need to leave already if you haven't
I know.
read like these, because we're getting spoilery.
I was just going to say, reading book 3, getting to the end, I was like, oh, is Mal going to die? And I was like, whatever.
I honestly thought Alina was gonna die.
I did
but
too.
a lot of that
I
comes
did too
from
for a
because
little,
I read Six of Crows first, and Inej constantly talked about Saint Alina, and I was like, wait, isn't Alina the girlfriend? Like, saints die. Like, I 100% was waiting for her to die, and so I kind of thought that was gonna happen the whole time.
Crows, Nikolai tells them that Alina and Mal die. He straight
Right,
out
because they're like
lies.
hiding.
I don't even remember that.
And I read the entire trilogy thinking they were going to die at the end. And I feel like this is a spoiler I need to give everyone, because I would have enjoyed the trilogy a lot more if I had known she lived.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like, from book 1, I was
so
like,
neat.
I
Both
guess I'll
of you
read this. But
both
That's
of you read
exactly
Six
what
of
my
Crows before?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And I totally thought she was gonna die, and I was like, I don't know if I'm like really gonna enjoy this, because I don't really like those, like, I mean, okay, sometimes they're good. Let's, okay, without
sometimes they're
spoiling it.
divergent, and then you get
Some books, like, yeah, there's Divergent, and then there's Mistborn,
Which one
where
was
there's like,
fine. Yeah,
people
Mistborn was
die, both
Right.
in the first book and the third book, but it
Right.
makes sense.
Sorry
Yeah.
for
Okay,
spoiling
enough
this.
about
one.
That's it for spoilers. We didn't say who. People always die in
Yes,
books, okay?
But people die.
So-
People die. Oh, you guys, I want to say something else about Mal too to add.
I think you're
is
saying
that-
something else about Miss Ford. I was like, no.
This is all like a rant about Mal episode.
Yeah.
No, I do. There's one more thing I need to say about Mal, and this one actually is pretty valid, and I like to like chat about this one because it's pretty interesting too. But a lot of people are like, you know, I've seen a lot of people on saying like, okay, so Mal is better, but I still don't like him because he's still really boring. And that's another thing that people say about him in the other books is even if they don't really get the like, oh, he was like bad, he was annoying, he did this stuff, they're just like, well, he's super boring. And like, yeah, I get that, especially in the world of YA where it's usually the bad boy or the charming boy or, you know, basically the Darkling and Nikolai. Those are usually the love interests we get. But this one, we have the Darkling and we have Nikolai and we have, you know, the regular
The guy
teenage
next door.
dumb boy,
Yes.
boy next door, Mal. And so I've seen a lot of people who, even though Mal's so improved, they still find him boring. And of course, you know, there's problems with the other characters too, which I'm sure we'll get to once we talk to. Yeah, but like it's kind of one of those things that like bums me out. I'm like,
Yeah.
but like he just because someone's boring doesn't mean they're like the bad love
But it
interest.
sometimes makes me think that the writer could have done a better job.
that could be true.
As it is
I could
fiction.
see that.
It is her first.
It totally is.
It's her debut, right? So
Yeah.
I mean that's valid. Like her writing is amazing, and she did so many things,
Right.
so many amazing things with that series. So like it's valid to not get everything right with your
I
first trilogy. You know,
100% did not get everything right with my first book. I just
Right?
like I like that
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm like we go through all these motivations and sometimes I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Yeah, it does annoy me that, sorry, really fast. It does annoy me that because I'm always the one that picks the more regular guy, right? Like if you're talking, when we do like, when we had our like love triangle conversation, like I always pick the more boring guy, the more realistic one. And so maybe that's why Mal is way more my speed after all of that, because I always pick the guy that's like, could be the actual, you know, person that
The safer, well, maybe
Not the
safer.
safe-
Like that's
but
the
like
person in
in the
real life that you're probably going to meet.
Yeah. And like Kay said, somebody who's going to actually grow, because I feel like every single time there's like a bad boy or like the more glamorous guy, they don't change as much as I like them to.
They
you know?
change for like the person, really. And you know, they do change usually in like, oh, you know, maybe I won't do this morally gray thing anymore, but it's not because they've grown as a person, but the love and this is cute, okay? I love this trope too. The
Right.
love interest change them. That's cute, but it's like it's just different. And I do wish that there was a little more appreciation, and maybe it just needs to be done better in certain books, that the guy next door who's not the brooding bad boy has, you know, is as appreciated as the
well then maybe people should take
brooding-
notes from the show because
Yeah.
I do think they got it right.
I do love
I think so.
like friends to lovers. I love it, and it is so rare in young adult fantasy.
It's hard
and
in all
so-
fantasy, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I
like
only read
contemporary
young adult.
romance. Contemporary romance loves friends to lovers, but
yeah, and I do love it, but still, I just felt like Mal was. He was really possessive. And like so intimidated by Alina,
like not
and
in a
I'm just
sexy
like,
possessive way.
yeah, no, possessive. Where it's
And
like,
annoying.
I don't want you to ever wear black because that's his color. And it's like, wow, really, Mal? You don't get to tell her what to wear. She's a person. She gets to choose what she wears herself. You know, like.
The funny thing though is I can imagine the Darkling doing like the same thing and women swooning.
Yes.
Maybe not
Yes.
us, and maybe not like, but like, can you imagine like, oh, okay, I could just see it.
He
Being
kind of did that
possessive.
in the show
Like,
too. He
yeah,
was
the
like, why
bad
don't
boy
you wear
can be
my
possessive.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But like it needs, I think that's what makes it work is like if it's in character with someone who's already morally gray, then when they do kind of morally gray things to their like relationships, and it's like, okay, I can see that it's in their nature. But when someone has the potential to be good, I think we just expect a little more of them.
Yeah,
and so
that
when they
makes
do
sense.
things that are a little unsavory,
Yeah.
I think it's just harder for us to like I don't know.
accept those morally
Right.
great
Especially because
things
we
from
see
them.
we see that character as the person in real life, and we imagine it in real
Yeah.
life. Whereas, like, no one's imagining. I mean, maybe someone is, but it's really hard to find the Darkling like walking down the street. But you can definitely find
Let's
Mal.
hope we never find the Darkling.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I said like one more Mal thing that's kind of off
We're just
topic.
never
It's
gonna
off
get
topic.
like 10 more
It's
Mal
off
things,
topic,
okay?
but I feel like we're gonna slide into the Darkling real quick here, if I have my way. But did
Okay.
Mal, his tracking ability, like, does Mal have magic? And did he like have such an uncanny ability to do that in the book? Because it seemed
Yes, he did.
He
That
did.
was part of his,
This is
'cause,
whole
you know,
thing.
he's the
because
Firebird
I
or
always
whatever.
found it
Yeah.
so like, yeah, maybe we'll get into where it honestly has been a long time since I read the book, but I find it so like he doesn't like magic and he doesn't like power and he clearly has it.
he has magic.
He has it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I thought, like, I love that about it. One more thing about Mal before I leave. Okay, the scene, it was like, I think it's the last episode where the goat, like, he calls the goat up. And that was, like, the
goat.
cutest thing. He, like, kisses it. Thank you. Oh, you smell that?
I know.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
it's
like I-
precious.
I don't even remember that part. That's so funny.
It was so cute.
Okay,
Go look at
now
the goat scenes.
now I have to say one more thing
One more
about
thing.
Mal.
Okay, one more Mal.
Okay, so I'm sorry because I know that this is like romantic for a lot of people. So it's sorry if you disagree with me. It's totally fine. You're allowed to disagree with me. But seriously, the part where he's like, I'm sorry it took me so long to see you, Alina, but I see you now. I'm like, no, that is the least romantic thing ever. If a guy ever says that to you, run so fast away from him because, like, sorry, if he didn't see you until you became a super powerful
Yeah.
being, then,
Yeah.
like, that's on him, and he has the one. Anyway.
I did kind of hate that though, because I feel like up until that point, the show Mal was very much in the same boat as Alina in the whole unrequited thing. Like he had, like,
Yeah, that's true.
you know. And then when he said that, I was like,
Yeah, that's how
I thought
I
you
felt
saw
too.
it.
Like out of
Again,
character
it's
for
like-
show Mal.
That's the line that people love it. So again, it's fine
Yeah.
if you love it. So
I
I was like, I
don't
felt like
like
they had
that.
to keep it.
I
But
did
yeah,
not
that to me,
take
Wait,
I'm
is
it
just
that
the
like,
line
same
from the
way.
books?
I didn't take it the same way.
I think
though.
it is.
If it's in the books, I don't remember the books very well.
It's
As
definitely
mentioned,
in
I
the
remember
books.
like emotions of the books, but not details. But in the show, I kind of took it as he sees her as like the sun summoner and as someone who can do things and as someone like not just like his friend that he loved, but that
Oh,
she
that's
has
I'd
like
rather take it that
depth
way.
and other
I
sides
like
to
that
her.
better.
yeah. Okay, thank you for fixing that for
We'll
us.
just
Yeah, I'm
reinterpret
gonna
this
imagine
line.
it that way because I do not like it. Like, because he totally like they show Mal saw her right away, and you could tell he liked her. He like said things to his friends, and he was like embarrassed about it. Like,
Yeah.
show Mal was into her from the start, but thought they both didn't really understand it. And then he said that line, and I'm like, no, this is book Mal. I don't. Book
Right.
Mal doesn't
See,
come
and to
into
me,
show
it
Mal.
was show Mal because that was when he redeemed Book Mal, who's threatened by her power. To me, it was like that
Okay.
he saw her power and he appreciated her still for it and like
All
saw
right,
who she
so-
truly was.
We're just gonna
Let's go
delete
with
that
that,
line.
then.
We're deleting that line from the book. It now only exists in the, show,
show.
the way Hannah
and
has
it means
interpreted it.
yes, it means that.
Okay, but also
And therefore,
like
we like him.
yes, but what if in the book we're only interpreted that way because Alina interpreted that way? You know what I mean?
Ooh, girl,
Because
you're
it's
just messing
you're
with our
getting back
heads.
there.
Yeah, but that's what it is. It's like
I
Hannah's-
feel like his actions speak
Okay,
louder
maybe.
than
I don't think we're ever going to agree on Book Mal.
no, it's
We are too
fine.
kids.
All right, let's go on to the Darkling.
The
We've said enough
Darkling.
about Mal now.
Okay,
the Darkling.
can I mention the part with the Darkling that I was like, this is Darkling, and I feel like Ben Barnes all at the same time is when they're looking for the crows and David like raises his finger.
Oh yes.
And Ben was like, or Darkling was like, oh, you don't have.
to.
Okay, yes, David. I felt like that was like the most Darkling and Ben thing at
I
the
love
same
that
time.
I thought that was super cute. I loved that moment of humor where you kind of see the Crow's humor like pop over into the the Shadow and Bone storyline, because we didn't get to see that much of that. I like him.
Or he like causes funniness. I don't think he means to be funny.
Yeah, like intentionally maybe.
He just awkwardly makes funny things happen.
Also, that same scene when he throws the book at Jasper, and then Jasper's like, he threw a book at me, and he like picks it up, and it's Shadow and Bone, and I'm like,
that was so cool.
I thought it was Language of Thorns. I was gonna go back and double check it.
I'm pretty sure it was Shadow and Bone, but I don't know. It's something.
I've read about this because, you know, I'm obsessed.
Because you're cool.
It's definitely supposed to be Shadow and Bone. Rabkin.
I did know that they have the Saint book that's in it, like, is an actual book, and I looked at it, and it was so much money. I'm like, I can't do it. But it was really beautiful. It's like all the beautiful paintings and each of the saints. And
does it have Sancta Alina in it?
I can't remember. Actually,
it should. I would be disappointed if it didn't.
Although then, if it was in the book and then in the show, and then it's all very confusing.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
that would just open a
time
continuum.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, so the other thought that I had, first of all, the fold creation episode, like that whole beginning,
that was cool.
That was so cool. And I don't remember, do we ever, from the books, do we get that side of the story from the Darkling or anything?
Like, in, there's a novella that is his backstory, but I don't think it's quite that part. I think it's in Language of Thorns, which I've not read all of yet, but it's like him as a boy and like some of it, but I'm trying to remember. Okay. I don't know if it catches up to that point.
I don't remember that part at all. My husband kept asking me questions, and I'm like, I don't know. This isn't in the book at all. I don't know any of this.
I mean, it made sense why they added it, because obviously they wanted to make him, you know, they needed to show where this all came from. But it also really showcased the whole troubled, misunderstood boy turns dark thing. And I was like, no. Let's not add to that fuel, okay?
Oh yeah, I know. That one just like it was really good to see the way that they like humanized him, but at the same time they did show that like even though he was humanized, he made like these really dark choices. And like even up until like the end where he like decides to destroy the city, like it's not just this army that's waiting there to attack him or whatever. They wanted to like turn on him, like
civilians.
It's that whole town. Like we see Zoya being upset because her freaking aunt lives there. Like it's not. It's like there is a vicious streak, but still, oh my gosh. I do feel like we should have one Darkling obsessed person on the show, because unfortunately none of us are, and I feel like quite a few of our listeners are to be so mad at us because none of us are gonna
Can I be obsessed with Ben Barnes though? Like, I can do that.
That's acceptable.
I love the Darkling as a character so much.
So well written. So cool.
I cannot get into the like they should be together thing.
Okay, let me read you my notes on the Darkling.
Okay, go for it.
It's hilariously short. It says, the Darkling almost got me again. And I'm wondering if I'll actually be more sympathetic to him by the end or not, but by the last episode I was like, I don't think so, but I also feel like that's about where I was by the end of book 1. Is like I wanted him to redeem himself still.
Right.
For me, a sexy, morally gray character can either put his country first, which is what he seems like he's doing, but I feel like he seemed like he was doing that by the end of book 1. Or he can put his love interest first. He's either willing to burn down the world for a girl, or willing to do anything, including sacrifice the girl for his country, or whatever, or his cause, I guess. And either of those I find acceptable, but the Darkling in the end of the books is only interested in his own power. And that is why I will never be Team Darkling. I'm like, either of those other things. And it almost seems like he is so obsessed with the Grisha and, like, protecting them. And that's what was kind of getting to me in the show. I was like, ooh, I could almost, even though he's, like, doing stupid things, if his, like, one of those, well, the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
I can still kind of be on board, even though I think, obviously, anyone that chains you to a vote is not a great choice as a potential mate,
Yes.
but as like a character, I could still kind of be on board with him. But I think if they stay true to his character in the book, then by the end, I was like, you deserve everything that happens to you.
Yeah.
I thought they did, which I thought they did it very well in the show, but I
Yes.
also felt like they showed
I was
the
freaking in
Darkling
love with
having
him for the
way
first 4
more.
episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like they showed him having way more interest in Alina.
Mhm.
Yes,
Interest is the
they
wrong
did.
word. Like romantic interest
It
in
seemed
Alina
genuine
than in the books.
in the books, because we see, I mentioned this after the show, I remember, and I didn't mention it on the podcast because we weren't doing spoilers, but in the book, and I forgot to look it up to see what the exact words were, but when the Darkling kisses her, at least the first time, she like senses this like resistance. It's either that or he doesn't close his eyes, or she feels like
There's something
disgust or
off
something
about
from
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something off about the kiss. And I remember that's when I like got this. I'm like, that's not like, oh, that's not normal. Like a good kiss from like someone who's in love with you. And that was like my first inkling that like he wasn't kissing her because he was into her. He was doing it to like manipulate her because
Exactly.
he thought that was gonna. But in the books, or the show, it seems like he's into it.
Well,
like,
yeah, when
he's
he like does that
surprised by
whole
it.
come back thing where he like leaves and then comes back, I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, it was cute. It
Yeah.
was cute.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
and all
no,
the
but it can't be
glances and
cute.
stuff. Like he definitely
Yeah.
comes across as clearly having romantic interest
Right,
in
he
her.
seems lonely. And
Yeah.
he's finally
Yeah.
met somebody of equal power kind of thing, which like is
But
a
he
good
still
trope.
wants to control her power.
Right.
He doesn't want to
Yeah.
let her in on the truth. So that still makes him super sketchy.
Yeah.
Because she was into him, he was into her, and he was still like, well, I'm not going to tell her that I'm about to like control her power, but you know, I'm immortal and she'll be immortal. So Mal, I'm going to be around forever and you're just going to
I
die.
actually-
I'm going to take
yeah.
your girl.
I kind
that
of I
conversation.
loved that conversation.
It was good.
It was so
good.
good.
It was
It was like everything on
it
the
was-
table
Right.
conversation,
Yeah.
and I loved it. And I was like, huh. I wonder if she would come around eventually. If that
Okay.
were out of the picture.
The things, when the antlers in her
Cool.
collarbone.
Yes,
Oh.
that was different. I was like, I was like to my husband, I'm like, this isn't what happened. It's supposed to be a necklace.
That's why I was freaking out. I'm like, so, okay, ever since getting pregnant with my first child, I have like the weakest stomach. I cannot handle anything that's like remotely gross. I'm like, oh, I can't handle it. And that, I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, are they gonna do that for all the rest of the shows? Are they just gonna leave it like this? It's not like this in the book.
Yeah, I was like, I don't.
Kay's like having a melted breakdown.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly how I felt
I was like,
too.
how do
I was
you
like,
wear
no,
clothes
it's
if
not
got like
it.
these
This
antlers
is
sticking out of
wrong.
your
Yeah.
collarbone?
But
And she just slurps them into her bones later. So
Yeah,
that's
I
cool.
do really love that they did that though, because okay, and obviously you guys know like I like the darker shows and whatever, all that stuff, but I really love that because I think it really showed just how far the Darkling was willing to
Right.
go,
right.
and like yes, we
it
got
made
all
it disturbing what he
Yeah,
did.
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
It wasn't like some cool necklace that's like, oh, look how cool it is. It's
Right.
thorns, and you just have it on your neck.
Well,
Right,
and then when
exactly.
it sank in all the way, you really got that impression that she was like owning the power of it and that it belonged
Yes.
to her.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
you know, it
that's
worked
true.
really well visually, but I agree. I
Yes.
was a little like, what?
Yeah.
But that was
Yeah,
good.
It worked out, and it also makes sense too for like future episodes that it's just inside of her, that now they're not gonna have to have some prop that they have to keep for all the rest of the shows, you know, like
Yeah, that
I
too.
felt like that was a really good way to handle it. But it was like, once it was all said and done, I was like, oh yeah, that was definitely awesome the way they did it. But just when they first did it, I'm like,
It also, I feel like the show did a couple things like this where in a book it makes like you don't question things as much when you can't see certain things. Like in the book, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, it's a necklace, but she can't remove it, so obviously she's stuck with it. But I feel like if you see that in a show, it's harder without
You're like, how do you lay
explaining
down?
a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
How do
or
you
like
get
being like, why
dressed?
don't you just take it off? Why don't you just get someone to like cut it off or something? Like that's
Right,
just a
right.
lot of extra things. Where like in shows or movies, you need a little bit more, like, I don't know the right word for it, like a little more intense. For example, another thing that I noticed they did is, like, this isn't in the books, or at least it's not over explained. They had these like hand motions, like here's a sequence of hand moves that I do that make magic happen, where like,
and they did say a few times that like they were like keeping people's hands apart or doing different things,
they had more restrictions on magic, whereas like in the books I feel like you don't have to explain what every single person is doing in every direction, but like in a show you can see how easy something would be to get out of because you have magic. You could just be like, well, here's magic, I'm free. But having more restrictions visually makes it easier to see why certain people can be in disadvantages and why like magic can't just solve everything. So I thought that was really cool, and that's kind of what that like the having the bones like it fused in her did, is it didn't make it seem like it was impossible. She couldn't have taken that off. Like there's no one who was gonna cut that off of her. Like it was fused in her bones. So that was another thing I thought was really cool, is they added a little more like restriction to like how the magic worked, and it wasn't quite as easy to just solve all the problems.
Actually like cut it off or something at the end?
I think she does in the so I think it does come off at some point in the books.
Maybe it just like loses its power. They'll have it lose its
maybe
power.
It'll come out of her skin again, Kay. You can watch for that.
You can
close my eyes. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so actually that reminded me, what Tasanya said, that reminded me of one of my theories for why Netflix chose this particular series for a show. I think it's because of the amount of CGI, which I like. Once I found out it was Shadow and Bone, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They're not going to need very much CGI at all, because so much of the magic is like, you know, they just don't need as much CGI to show it. So I loved that they chose this, and it really didn't need very much CGI. I was already thinking about this before it began, and they do so much with like wind or you know, like lighting effects, and then like the hand motions, because like the stuff that the heart renders do,
it's just
you
sound.
can't see it.
You don't see that anyway, so they do so much with like sound and other things. And obviously there's CGI also. I mean, like, of course
there's giant
bones
monsters
with antlers seeking to turst bones, you know.
Oh no, that was real.
She just had that has that now. It's a prop from the show. Take away
the orbs of light. I mean, but it was cool. I was not surprised at all that they chose this particular series, because there were so many things that they could do to demonstrate the magic without having to have
they could
CGI.
give it a really good production value for a lower budget,
yes,
probably than
exactly.
Because because our expectations are high for TV shows now. Like, we expect them to be as good as movies.
Fantasy shows, like, they are really, like, they can be really good, so we expect a lot.
Right.
Man, they did a good job with this one.
They really did.
It was,
yeah.
Those, like, shadow monsters at the end following him, I was like, oh, they look so good.
Oh,
yeah, that was really cool.
Oh,
I've seen some really, like, some great Darkling memes. There's, like, one where they're, like, the Darkling says follow, and then there's like a meme of like a girl following, and then there's another one that's like the feminism leaving my body when the Darkling tells Alina to submit. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, no, but I can see that.
Oh, that's funny.
I seriously had chills though with the "Make me your villain" line. I was like smacking
Oh,
my
yeah, everybody
husband on the arm.
He did so
That's
good.
the line. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I told my husband that too, and he like pointed it out when he was, because he's reading the books now, and he's like, is this the line that you were like telling me about? Is like the
maybe.
like I'm like, yeah, it's from the show and everyone like freaks out about it. It's really good.
Okay, it's so funny because I read the whole trilogy, and then I started like looking up spoilers and stuff, and I know that the fine "make me your villain" line is so iconic, and I did not remember reading it. And I'm like, I should someday look up where that is, because I don't remember that. I know it's in the books. Everybody talks about it. I just think it's so funny. I didn't even remember it. And then when it was in the show, I was like, oh, that's where it is. Now
That
I
makes
know.
sense.
Okay, that's funny. I saw this TikTok of this girl who was actually reading the book as like the show was playing on screen. And so she was reading the passage, and then she said, fine, make me a villain, the same time he did. So it was like leading up to it, and it like gave me chills because, you know, it's like the passage from the book coinciding with the actual show happening. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good.
It's really kind of cool. His like no turning back point. as
That's
as
true.
like a love interest
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah,
That's like,
that's-
I guess this isn't gonna happen.
Right. I also do love though that he like still blames her. Like it's such a villain thing for him to be like, yes, you're making me the villain. Like I'm
Yeah,
not the
that's
villain.
so
But
true.
it was such a good
I'm
like
the hero
villain.
of Ravka. Thank you very much. I'm gonna save all
Yeah,
the Asia.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So I love that. I was gonna mention something which made me laugh a few times because you know how like it's inspired by Russian, words and culture and whatever, like it has all that stuff. And some of the words they use are Russian words, but like not all of them, obviously. But some of them, when they say it, I'm like, why aren't you saying it the Russian way? Like, I don't understand. Like, every time they say "мерзость," like, that's like literally just, oh my gosh, the English word left me now.
Oh no.
It's like, coldness. It's like cold and frozen, all of that. Like, that's the word for it. And they say it like wrong in the show every time.
Is it Merzost? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, say it the Russian way again so we can all hear.
Мерзость.
That is different.
Merzost.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem
so-
like
it has like an
That's
I
hard for
sound.
them.
That's interesting.
but I was like,
to get a
just
Russian
say,
on set.
I know, but
Coach
just
them
say it
the
in Russian.
words.
And there's only
Okay,
a
I
few.
will say, and I don't know, Valia, you can totally correct me and tell me that I'm wrong. But like, okay, I'm glad that so I first of all, I think it's kind of weird that everyone has like a British accent and there's not a single person who has a Russian accent, but I would prefer that over the Hollywood horrible Russian accent because, okay, I know a lot of people who are of Russian heritage. They do not sound like Hollywood Russian accents. They do not sound like that. And it drives me crazy because it's so bad. Valia, you can tell me if I'm
Okay,
wrong and that
no.
maybe the Hollywood accent is real.
No, let me tell you something. This drives me insane, okay? So every time, like for example, we're just gonna take one example. Anna Karenina, right? Like the movie, okay?
Mhm.
So they're in Russia, okay? And they're all speaking with a Russian accent. I'm like, no, if you're in Russia, it's not an accent, it's just how you speak. So if every single one of those actors just spoke regular English, I would have been more happy because then they're trying to like make it sound Russian and like they're saying things and they're using like the Russian accent and I'm like, it's so exaggerated and that's not how it sounds to us. So why? So I kind of actually really love that they all had like British accents because I'm like, yes, like it doesn't matter because for them, like it just sounds the way it sounds,
Mhm.
So it cracks me up because every time they do a Russian accent, it is really exaggerated and it's like extra harsh and they're, I don't know, whatever. And I'm like, you don't even need it, okay? Because you're in Russia or you're in this world. Like, you don't sound like to other people. Like, you just sound normal.
I do think it's funny though, the British accent thing is what I think is funny, where it's just like Hollywood keeps telling us that this accent is like superior and
Or
it's not a real
European?
show unless people, I don't know what it is. It's just like
Yeah,
it
like
just feels
fantasy
like-
shows have to
Yeah.
have a British accent.
which I don't
That's
mind
funny.
it. Like obviously the
Yeah, I mean,
actors
it's-
were so amazing. They picked great. The cast is perfect. So like I have no problem. And people have British accents, so that's
And
great.
it sets a
Let's hire
mood.
them,
It definitely
but-
sets a mood. I think
Yeah.
American accents are really like they're just thought of as contemporary, and so I
Yeah.
think it's hard to get into like the zone.
North American
but-
accents.
Yeah.
Canadians gonna point out over here.
that is
I thought
That
that. Sorry, this is very squeaky. It's late, guys. I thought that it made sense for all the crows to have British accents and they laid it on thicker in
because
Ketterdam. Because-
they are in a European
Right, they were,
city,
and they
that's
kind of made it look like England, and like Pickering had like that like Cockney kind of accent from what I remember. Like it seemed like there was
That's
a lot
true.
more of that. So I noticed it more with them, and I was like, well, of course they would because that's where they're
Right.
from and that's their influence.
Well, although Ketterdam is based on Amsterdam.
Oh, I know.
Though,
I
not
mean,
England.
but
still,
show
it is still
Ketterdam
that.
seems to be London.
Yes.
Yeah. But also,
All right.
aren't the actors British or from other countries? Like, is any one of the actors actually American? Because that's my favorite, when there's a fantasy world and the actors are just allowed to speak with their own accents. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes me happiest.
I have no idea. I'm not good at, like, differentiating accents. To me, they felt like those were their natural accents, but what do I know? I could be wrong. But I do think that even if they were their natural accents, I think they specifically hired people who had natural accents like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, maybe.
Which is fine.
Nina wandered in and out of an Irish accent when she was talking about the Wandering Isle and where she had been,
Yeah.
which made me think that was supposed to be
I
like
think she
Ireland.
is Irish. I think I read that somewhere, that the actress.
The actress?
Oh, the
Because
actor's actually
Because, like,
Irish?
when
Okay.
she talked about, like, her mission or that they could go off to the Wandering Isle or something like that, she got heavier
Yeah,
Irish.
she
Yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, she is a spy, right? She can speak lots of languages, so it was
Right.
natural for her to kind of,
Yeah,
split
to, like,
Yeah,
see
because
the
she
line
did.
out
She
of
did.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, didn't she show Matthias in the show that she like can speak a bunch of different languages?
Yeah.
and,
She does.
like,
She does say that specifically. She's like, because she talks to him in his language,
Yeah,
Right,
that's
without
right,
an
I
accent.
remember.
right?
believe,
And
yes.
she's like, I'm a spy. Like, I can speak 6 languages, whatever, or something like that. I was
Yeah.
like, yes.
See, and his
Good
thick
job, girl.
accent made sense because he was not supposed to be a native speaker of
Right.
Ravkin.
Of Ravka.
Yes.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. That I loved how smart the show was in everything.
We'll just forgive all the little things because we love it so much.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
There is no
Yes.
perfect show.
Can we talk about Inej and Kaz, please?
Yes.
Okay.
I was actually gonna say that next. I was
Okay. I'm just like sitting here waiting.
Yes,
Okay.
go for it.
So I know a lot of people, this is like, I was trying to say this on the last episode and I couldn't because I was like, oh, I feel like this is spoilers. But I know before the show, a lot of people were really worried that they were going to touch each other. You know, that's, if
Right.
you've read the books, you know, that's a really big deal. The fact that they can't touch each other. And I just thought they handled it so well. For the people who have read the books, they can see that they don't touch each other, and it's like powerful, and I just felt like they did such a good job portraying that. And everybody, I feel like so many people were so worried about it that they were just going to erase that trauma, you know. But I feel like for the people who don't know that whole history, they still did such a good job of like having that chemistry between them where they're able to be there for each other in a way, even though they weren't touching. And I love that because I feel like a relationship is built on so much more than just touch, you know.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with touch when it is in a relationship, that's great too, but I just felt like they did such a great job of showing that strong relationship between them, the strong connection that they had, and they just had to communicate it in other ways.
Yeah.
So well done.
I really love that. I also really loved the little glimpses that we got of Kaz, like, have his feelings towards her. Like, okay, so that part where they're like trying to figure out how to get back through the fold, and they're like watching to, you know, get on the railroad or whatever. And she calls Jasper Jess, and Kaz just is like, he didn't hear
Jess?
anything else that she said or they said. He's just like, Jess? And I'm like, yes, because he's like possessive, you know, like, but in a good way, like not a bad possessive way. And
in
also
the cute way.
yeah, but
Jealous,
also
it's like, where's my nickname?
yes, exactly. Which I like love that so much. And also Jasper and Inej have like the coolest like friendship.
do,
I love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really cute. But like Jesper is just awesome in like everything.
It's
so.
true. He
His
was
guns.
yeah, him and his little
So
guy.
funny. Okay, my favorite part of the whole entire thing, okay, all
Okay.
of Shadow and Bone Netflix adaptation was the end of episode 5 when Alina climbs into the carriage that the Six
Oh,
of Crows
yeah.
characters are going to escape in, and Jesper's just like waiting around, and then he like sees her. He's like, what? like laughing. It was so funny. I was so curious to see how they would do that because obviously in the books they don't kidnap her. They're not even there, right?
Right.
But I mean, I'm like, but she does escape, so maybe they will kidnap her, you know? Like,
Yeah.
sitting there, what are they gonna do? I
I
don't
was
even know.
wondering too.
Yeah.
And then when she just climbs into their carriage, I was dying. I'm like, this is the best way they could have handled it.
Yeah, seriously. It was so like such a Crows thing to happen.
Yeah.
Like it was like the perfect crossover.
And it was
of the
like
two
dramatic on
stories.
her part and ridiculous on their part. Where
Yes,
it's like, this is what it should have been.
exactly. Like just imagining if it had been a scene from like the more Shadow and Bone tone, and just seeing her like sneaking into like a thing, it would be like a lot really tense. You'd be
Yeah.
like worried about someone seeing her, but no, you get to see it from the Six of Crows, like more lighthearted tone of the show, and it's funny.
Yeah, and then he was like, just ask. Like, you can
Yeah.
ask. And he's just like,
They're
oh
just
my
like,
gosh.
I know Kaz and Inej come and they're all devastated. And
Yeah.
Jasper's just like,
Yes.
so funny.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they did such a good job with, I mean, we talked about the casting in the last episode, but it just really, really showed, like, by the end of the show, like, it didn't, yeah, I just loved all of it so much. And then at the very end, when, like, Nina is there with the crows, like,
Yes,
that
and
was-
she hears them. We need
Yeah.
a heart render. And she's like, what?
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I loved that at the end. I'm like, I can see it all come together.
Yeah.
yeah.
And Matthias is captured, so we got to see like the
I was
heartbreaking,
so
like.
angry.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, yes, he was so mad at her, and so now I'm just like, oh, I'm so eager for like the next season, because then like I'm hoping that they go into the next part, like what the Crow's actual story is, where they get Matthias out of the prison because they need Nina, and
But was anyone
Right,
else
right.
just
out
like,
of there.
I have to go back to Inish in a second, but now I'm thinking about this. Like, was anyone else just like have trouble with characters, we're going all spoilers, that they know are gonna die? And like watching them be so like cute.
Character.
Yeah.
And I was
Maybe
just
they
like,
won't
I
kill
love
them.
them so
Maybe
much.
the show, maybe
We
the
know
show
you're only
won't
talking about
die.
one
But
character.
she's just here for one.
Oh. Yeah,
But no,
mean,
I
okay,
agree.
I was watching for their plot line, and after a bit, my husband was too, which I thought was hilarious because it's mostly just like them bantering through.
Yeah.
But the like scene, I think is it like just before she falls in the crevasse when she's like teasing him and he starts teasing her back, and they're so cute, and we were both like,
it's so cute.
Yeah, that casting was perfect too. Just
Yes.
like their chemistry, the chemistry between these
So
characters
cute.
was just so amazing. I'm
Yes, all of the
Amazed.
couples had, yeah, they just did such a good job.
yes. Okay, what did you have to say about Inej, Hannah?
Inej, I loved, as somebody whose faith is very important to her, I loved
Yes.
that she was a character who had faith and it influenced her actions, and she was unapologetic about it,
Yes.
and it wasn't bad.
right.
Right? Like, I feel like a lot of times people with faith are either like weak or a bit of a problem, which she could have been because she did like screw with their stuff a little bit.
Yeah, messed up their little plans.
Yeah, she betrayed them
Or
just a
they're
little
like
bit.
a zealot and like a little bit creepy, which is usually people who have
Like
a
the
bone to pick.
apparat.
I think.
Yeah, like the apparat, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But she's like just a very relatable character who has things she believes
And
in.
she's strong. She
She
has her
is.
knives, and she's
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
she
love how
wants
they
to
handled
help.
her.
Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought in the books also her faith is handled so well.
Yes,
And
so I'm glad they
Yeah.
didn't shy away from that
Yes.
as like an aspect of her in the show.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's such a big part of her character. Like, you can't have her without that. So
Mhm.
for them to have changed that, that would have been devastating.
Yes.
Really? You know, I do agree with that. I loved seeing like the little moments between her and Alina too, because I thought that
Mhm.
was just so,
Oh yeah.
you know, because of her faith, it was so precious and stuff like that. I also laughed so hard when Kaz was like, "Oh, you found religion too," when he was talking to Jasper at the end, and he was just like, "Okay, like no, but we're just being smart here. Calm down." Like,
I love that she was willing to go with Alina because it just made me think of like an alternate timeline. You're like
Mhm.
where Inej is just like her kick-ass bodyguard or something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, And when Alina gives her the knife, she's like, "Here's a knife," and she's like, "I know just what
Just
to
a call-
name
Yeah.
it."
Like, she gave her knives.
I know, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think they didn't really. I don't think they explained that in the show at all. That she names her knives
Mhm.
after the saints, and maybe they do as an
I don't-
afterthought or
I don't
something.
think
I don't
they
think
do.
I don't
they
remember.
explain it.
remember that.
So it's just one of those fun Easter eggs for those of us who have read
and
the
maybe
book.
that'll come more in the next one.
Yeah.
I did like, even though it's like painful to watch, her like rule of not killing and how she had to start breaking it and how she broke it to save Kaz. And you're like,
Yeah.
And he knows what it means too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And then at the end, when he goes into the darkness to like knowing that she's in there, you know, that like the what is it, the
Yes.
skiff, whatever, and then he like saves her from the monster. Like, I just love that so much because he was safe in the light, part of the ship, you know,
And
he's
Kaz
just
is
like
supposed to be smart and not caring and doing the smart thing,
Exactly.
right? And he chose not to try and to save her.
Yeah, I thought that was really like an awesome way to showcase like how he feels about her without it being like I love you, you know, kind of thing. Like, and yeah.
Well, if you look at it that way, I guess they both kind of like sacrifice something that's like integral to themselves for each other.
Yeah.
For each other.
I know. I love
Yeah.
that.
I am hoping they
We're
show
so
a little
emotional.
bit more of that in like season 2, because they didn't really like, for people who haven't read the books, they didn't really touch too much on Kaz's backstory
Right.
and like why he wears gloves. They didn't explain that much, and like why they don't touch. I feel like people who haven't really seen it won't really even realize they're not touching, because like you said, they did it so good.
Yeah.
And I was like expecting that to come up, but I do like that they've made so far all the relationships really, really slow burn, because
Yes.
it gives so much room for them to keep going, because especially for the crows, they're like most of the romance, except for like Nina and Matthias, and even that they kept very slow burn, doesn't start until the book, which like they haven't gotten to that part yet.
Right,
And so
yeah.
I like that they've left so much room.
But they gave
for
enough
more
relationship
growth.
that you could see how he would be
Yes, you
completely
could
betrayed.
still-
Feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. I love that they set them up, but they made them slow burn enough to where we have so much more we can see like from these characters.
So the scene where Inej is stitching herself back up
Oh, yeah.
Because
Too close to their
Kaz
eyes during that
won't
part.
touch her, and he's just. It's a weird scene, I feel like, if you don't know the characters. And then Jesper's, like, vomiting over the
I know,
side.
the whole time. It's like,
Whoop.
Okay, this is good that you guys can tell me this stuff, because I was definitely closing my eyes that whole scene. As soon as she like pulls out the needle, I'm like, nope,
We're
not watching this.
oh, that's hilarious.
But yeah, like, Kaz's expression the whole time. I don't know. I feel like I always love the kind of, like, the characters with the very micro expressions where I have to like read into what I think they're feeling, but it just seemed like he was so worried about her and so afraid of letting it show that he was worried about her.
Well, he got up and left.
Yeah, he's like watching
Like,
her like
face out.
really intently and then just like left and Jesper was like useless.
Yes. Oh my god.
Oh,
I love
Jesper.
it.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, I'll be good in half an hour.
Yeah.
Just check my sign up.
He's like,
Oh my gosh, speaking of, did you guys ever just like want to just cringe every time you saw Mal get another injury?
I was
and then
like that.
and then keep
beat up.
going?
Yes.
So beat up. Every time he got hit again or stabbed again, I'm like, ow, buddy, you are probably so bruised. That was like yesterday.
They're like,
I
let's heal him
know.
up. And he's like, no time.
I don't, was he that beat up in the books? I like don't remember him being stabbed and shot at and like
I mean, we
bleeding
don't get
all
his
over
like
the
time
place.
alone, and like
he
I
got
feel like his
shot.
time alone was like really intense. Like when his
Yeah.
friends died
Oh,
and
yeah,
he's getting
that's
I was
true.
shot
sad
at, and
when
I'm
his
like,
friends died. I'm like,
That
how are
was
you allowed
sad.
to die?
yeah, that was sad.
Sorry, I interrupted. Keep going.
No. I don't,
That was
you were saying something. I don't know what we were talking
no, that was the end for
Oh.
me. I think.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to bring up how that's just like every time he got hurt again, I was just like, ouch, like it hurt my body.
And that made us like him more again.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
He's
only like
strong.
Mal
He's
as the guy next door as long
tough
as he
guy.
gets hurt.
As
a
long
lot.
as he gets hurt
I'm
a
just
lot.
kidding.
Hannah's like,
I
he needs
am
to be
not-
bleeding.
I'm not agreeing with any of these statements. I'm just saying it makes him more sympathetic.
Yes.
I guess.
Not that I love boys to get shot at and stabbed.
No, it was really funny. So my mom came in, right? I was as I was watching like the last episode, and there was like a scene between Mal and Alina, and I can't remember where it was. I think it might have been like right after they got off the skiff, and they're like before they changed, or they were talking. So I don't remember where it was. Maybe it wasn't even at the end of the episode. I can't remember. But she just looks at me and she's like, "Is this Brendan and Callista?" Which is like my characters that's a friends to lovers, and I was like, maybe one day.
Oh, that's so cute.
She's like, I see it. I was like, yeah, I think maybe that this is what inspired it, if you think about it. Because I wrote the Skaska books like years after this, but still, like,
it's like percolating in your subconscious. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it was so good. So good. Okay, does anybody else have anything to say?
My other notes include, I love Genya. That's the whole note.
That's the whole note.
That's like, all we need.
Excited.
She speaks for herself.
I'm excited for her to get an eye patch later. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
She was cool, and she, I don't know, in the books, when she mentions it in here, like, you expect her to be kind of classically beautiful because she's been working on her own appearance since she was 5 or something, and she is, like, she's beautiful, but she's a very, like, strong featured beautiful. I just liked her. My other comment was about Zoya, and I know somebody had said, this is like me rebuttaling people on Instagram that I didn't have a full conversation with, who was like, I don't like Zoya still at the end, she's a racist, we shouldn't like racists, and I'm like, okay. I think maybe we didn't get a lot of Zoya, and that maybe, I don't know.
I don't think she's like that in the books, is she?
I don't remember, but
she just doesn't like.
We don't like her at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that Alina is not half Shu in the books.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a whole nother dynamic there. I also think maybe it's okay to say that someone could be a racist and still do good things, because people do bad things and good things and could grow as characters.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I don't remember where she is in the rest of the books. It's all a mystery to me as well. I'm like, she's like wandering off on her own. I'm like, does she come back? I don't
think she's that. I think she's the most important in the first book, but I think she makes appearances in the other ones. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I do think she comes back, but I'm like,
King of Scars, but I can't actually remember what she does in between.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm guessing they'll make her more important in the show. But one thing I was going to mention is they never once bring this up in the show. But when I was reading about like the diversity casting for this show and the decision about them having Alina be half Shu, they mentioned that Zoya is also mixed race. And that's where a lot of her like her angst and like jealousy from Alina comes from, is because she's also dealing with. They just don't show it. Like, I read that, but they never showed her getting any kind of, like, mixed race. Right. Like, she's not getting any racism on her, but that's one of the reasons why she sees, Alina is, like, an orphan, and she's also mixed race, but she's, like...
Now she's getting all this attention.
Yeah, so she's jealous of her. So it makes a little more sense knowing
that's true. Getting Zoya's man.
Yeah. Zoya, like, to me, Zoya only came across as, like, annoyed that Alina's getting attention and annoyed that Alina's getting attention from the Darkling.
Yeah.
And
in the books, is that what you said?
No, in the show.
In the show.
Oh. I don't remember the books. I keep saying. I remember very specific things. I'm like, Zoya's a character. Don't remember
she's the same in the books, where she's like, she doesn't like Alina because Alina's getting all the attention, and because Alina becomes very powerful because she finally has her Grisha power that she hasn't had for years. And so, I mean, it's not just, she's getting all the attention, and Zoya's like, I used to be the best, and I don't want you to be the best.
And also pretty. And like, I like the idea of that being part of her backstory, but I agree that didn't.
You didn't
make
see
it
that.
onto the screen. I
think it would have been better if it had
like just a line or two. Hey.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Or maybe it will be incorporated more in other seasons or something.
Yeah, if she's going to be a part of it. I do have a question, though. I can't remember this from the books, but I do remember that Alina gets, like, blonde at some point.
She goes
her hair turns white. Yeah.
Right. So does that happen? When does that happen? Because I, for some reason, thought it happened in the first book.
I think book 2, at the end of book 2,
that's
when, like, there's, like, that really, like, devastating ending. And she, like, loses all her power, loses her hair color. And then at the beginning of book 3, she's very weak. That's how I remember it. I could be wrong, but that's, like, how I remember.
I was thinking that it was, the end of book 2.
Okay.
Watch us all be wrong, and people are listening to this. They're like, no, you guys are so wrong. That's not at all.
You guys should have read the books before you watched the show.
Correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, yeah, that was my only thing. I was like, because obviously her being half shoe, like that makes a difference too, right?
I wonder if they're gonna even do the white hair thing, because it's not like significant. It's just cool. It's just like a trope to have hair change as like magic is drained from somebody. Like it's
People
a trope, but
don't usually look good with white hair at that age, so maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't.
Yeah, it'll just
I
just
that
imagine
personally.
it.
Oh, I need the full head of hair, Hannah. You look beautiful, of course.
Well, it's like, especially if it's fake. If it's natural and some like people with
different.
like pale complexions, even like albinism, it usually looks natural because that
exactly.
But if you're taking someone that's not like their natural hair color and then putting a platinum white hair,
you can tell it's a
wig.
Yes, you know what I mean?
That's what I'm worried about.
Natural, that's totally.
I am worried if it's gonna look really dumb. I mean, I'm going to trust them because they did such a good job so far, but that has been like my thing. I'm like, are they going to do the white hair?
That's what I was thinking too, yeah.
I like the white hair in the books, but maybe it's because I'm an artist and I was like, that's fun to draw.
Everyone loves drawing the white hair, which is funny because like I'm saying is I remember it being like mostly a thing in book 3 at the end of book 2, but like almost all Alina fan art is with her with
white hair. Yeah, that's true.
Antler.
Yes, and the antler necklace.
That's fun.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Anyway, that's so great. I love that this ended up being such a good show, and it's so well deserved for Lee, obviously, and just this whole world. Like, I love what they did with it. That's all I have to say.
We're just crossing all our fingers and toes for
season 2.
Can we all say what we speculate or most hope for season 2? Like,
I don't really
that's
remember
a hard one.
Two, so
I'm like, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go first while you guys think.
Okay.
But I pretty much have already said it. I want to see more of Kaz and Inej, starting to get a little bit more into the backstory of, like, not necessarily, we don't have to like see it, but to get into his backstory about like his no touch thing, his gloves.
I would really rather not see it.
I'm sure we might get flashbacks, or at least like, I don't know, we'll probably get something. We'll see how they handle that, but I really want them to dive into that no touch thing a little more. And the complexity of his character, and I also want more Nina and Matthias, obviously. So I really want them to do the Six of Crows heist in season 2.
I'm hoping Six of Crows book 1 and Shadow and Bone books 2 and 3.
It would make sense.
All of those all together.
All of season. Well, it would make sense if they do like second season being the first Six of Crows and the second Shadow and Bone, and then they could do a third season.
Yeah, that's true.
That would
line up really well.
Leah I heard her in an interview, was like, obviously I would love it if they did all 7 books, but I don't know if they're going to. She's like, King of Scars, give us another few seasons.
Everyone just watch the show as many times as you can so that
basically
Netflix will give us a season 2.
I've heard that they usually wait how long? Like at least 2 weeks and maybe a month just to get I think it's the first 4 weeks. They wait to see like the numbers from the first 4 weeks before they announce things.
Well, or you can be Julie and the Phantoms, and it's been months.
At least
months.
I know.
Anyway, no, but one more thing I was gonna say is that somebody mentioned on TikTok that they think they actually not name dropped, but like mentioned Nikolai in season 1. So now I'm like, I want to go and like rewatch and see what they mean. No,
because
I'm gonna have to look it up.
This is Prince Vasily, like as if he's the only child of these two people.
Yeah, I know, right? No, there was like, I think it was somewhere when they were in the army, like it's an army scene, and somebody mentioned it. So I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna share it. Back. Because I just thought of that. I was like, wait. So I definitely, obviously, it's book 2, so I would like to see Nikolai
yes,
there and see how they handle that, since
and he
they
brings
have
humor
already
to that plot line.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love his humor
Yeah.
and his banter.
Nikolai,
He's one of my favorite
I mean,
characters from that series.
He is not a love interest at all either for Alina.
He is
That just
not.
would
I would have
worked.
loved for him to be because he's a better
He
character
is
than the
so
other two.
good though. He is the
But
best
she doesn't like
character.
him,
She
and that's
doesn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
she just there's the part where they like kiss. Spoiler alert, you guys.
Whole
Spoiler
episode is
episode.
spoiled.
But they do kiss, and like she's kind of into it, but like kind of into it is not into it.
Yeah, no.
Like, I
And
guess
if
this
there
is the
hadn't been
worst.
if there weren't any other love interests, then sure, that could be a good start. But like there are other love interests, and
Yeah.
being kind of into it because you can't really be with the guy you actually like is just like not that
Yeah.
satisfying. And I just remember being like, no, Nikolai, I want you to be with someone who loves
Right,
you.
who appreciates you, yeah. So I really hope that they don't bring in and make that a thing. You know what I mean? Because if they stayed really true to not coming up with different...
Oh, you mean turning him into an actual love interest
Yes.
instead of like a... Yeah, because in the books, he's really not a love interest.
Right.
He's
I mean,
not. It's
they-
more like a
We just
plot.
like him.
And they're
Yeah.
flirty. He's like
just
kind
the
of a
best
red
character.
herring love interest. They at least give you like flirty bantery moments in between the times where she's not having flirty bantery moments with anybody else, because book 2 is a bit of a dry spell and
As
like
far
a
as love
weird
interest
yes.
a weird like
In between. It's a weird in
the
between, like a book 2
visions
is.
with the darkling and like making out in visions. That was like cool, I guess, but
Oh, I
also
forgot
weird.
But
I
very
forgot
weird.
I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so we'll
Good
see how those go in
times.
season 2.
Oh my gosh, yes. That would be very interesting and also very like Star Warsy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's
I didn't
true. So I
hate
guess
it
it
in
has
Star
been
Wars.
it has been done
Well,
in
I
film
did,
now.
so.
So
We'll have a whole nother Star Wars episode sometime where we can.
oh, we need Wayland,
Yes,
whatever
Wyland.
in season 2. Yeah, we need
Wyland and
Jesper
Nikolai.
to get his man.
There you
sad.
go.
Which I
not
guess he
have
doesn't
them.
really get his man until Crooked Kingdom, but you know, when I saw this scene of Jesper in the like stable, I'm like, well, this is cute, but he's not your man.
That's what I thought too. I'm like, but Wyland.
I was like, stop being a man whore, Jesper. Focus on your mission.
You have stuff to do, dude. Come on now.
You had one job.
Which is usually the case with him, right? He still came out the one that,
I know, and then I was
Got
like, maybe
her
that was part
out.
of his plan. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
which I thought was hilarious. Yeah. Anyway, I think I'm gonna have my parents watch it, and I'm gonna watch it with them because why not? But I really loved it, and I love that we can talk about all the spoilers now instead of just holding back like we
We
did.
need to have more spoiler episodes. That was fun.
Spoiler
Yes.
episodes are
It's much
fun.
easier.
Yes, I think from now on we probably will just have our mini episodes be mostly spoilers. Because
Also, by the
why
way,
not?
my husband was like, because, you know, we're recording this at night. My husband's like, well, it's a mini episode. It's not going to be long. I was like, babe, mini episodes are longer than all the episodes. It just means we talk about one subject.
Yes, exactly.
It's called a mini episode, but what it really means is big episode.
The extra long episode.
I know.
Our
I
branding
mean,
might be a little off.
I have no idea what else to call it too. I was like, special episode, extra episode. I mean, I
If
guess
You
I
have
could.
suggestions on what to rename our mini episodes.
That
Leave
are
a
an
comment
hour
on our
long.
Instagram.
Please, because I do have to edit this, and it's not me. That's for sure. But at least with these episodes, I basically keep everything in, like everything. It is unscripted and unfiltered, and that's
unedited.
true to the editing.
Yeah, and unedited.
Because it's more fun that way. We get to be more crazy at night, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna stop here because it is gonna be a lot of editing already. So if you guys have any thoughts, any emotions, anything you want to share with us, please
You want to fight
do.
with us about the Darkling?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Or
love that.
about
At
how
this point,
wrong we
okay. I
are.
know. Yeah, I can take you all on, okay? Anyway. But yes, please let us know. And you guys actually can leave us voice memos on
Ooh, we're fancy now.
Anchor, and yeah, we're very fancy. So look into that. That's going to be in our
On
show.
Anchor, you said?
Yeah, I think you can actually do it through any platform. Like if you are on Apple, there's a link at the bottom of the description that says that you can leave a voicemail or something. So come rant at us in a voicemail, and we'll talk about, we'll have more conversation about Shadow and Bone, because why not? But yeah, that's it. We have a regular episode coming Wednesday, so make sure to be looking out for that, and follow us on at Reading Queens Pod on Instagram. And yeah, that's it. We're out. Peace out.
Finally.
Okay, bye.
We're done.
Bye.
Good night.
Okay, bye.
Bye.